Hi, fourth grade. Mrs. Luke's here for round 2 of our CAD project. Last week, we talked about what CAD is. Just as a quick refresher, CAD stands for Computer Aided Design. And this week, what we're going to do is we are going to start learning about the history of architecture. To really understand what architecture is and where it came from, to understand the structural engineering side of it, we're going to flash way back to Greek architecture. And we're going to learn about Greek and Roman architecture. And in particular, we're going to talk about the columns that they used. We're going to talk about the Corinthian, we're going to talk about the Doric and the Ionic structures, the columns that they used when they created some of those very old structures. So I have a quick video for you that talks about these structures. We're going to watch that, and then we're going to actually do a little bit of drawing today to talk about designing our own columns. We're going to do this on paper first, and then eventually we're going to take those structures that we're designing and we're going to be popping those structures into Tinkercad. At this stage, it's really important that you don't work in Tinkercad quite yet. Next week when you come back, we're going to be doing a pretty lengthy demonstration with Tinkercad to familiarize ourselves with it, to learn how to use the tools, to move those pieces around. So if you want to practice a little bit ahead of time, you can, but at the same time, please don't worry about it because we're going to go over those pieces together. So at this stage, let's go ahead, let's watch that video and learn.
Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm standing in front of the Ionic column from the Temple of Artemis at Sardis from the date of 300 BC. And this column was originally over 56 feet tall. It's huge! If you come to the Metropolitan Museum, it would be very hard to miss seeing this column. Ancient Greek architects had 3 different types of columns, named the Doric, the Ionic, and the Corinthian columns. The Doric had the simplest design. On the top, it's very plain. It's kind of like a half circle in a way. The Ionic has scrolls on both sides of it. There's 4 spirals, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. It kind of looks like a pillow to me. Corinthian, I think, is decorative. Looks like an ornament. It looks like there's leaves coming out of it and then flowers in it, so it looks like a flower bush. They make me feel really small. I like the Corinthian because in the Corinthian you could find hidden flowers and leaves and types of designs, and it's made out of marble too, so it must be so hard to make such fine details. This is Ella reporting from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Now that we have been able to identify the differences between Greek columns such as Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, we will be able to identify them in modern architecture. Take, for example, the columns on the White House. Look at the tops of the columns. Can you identify which type they are? Are they Doric? Are they Ionic? Or are they a Corinthian? Look at the U.S. Capitol. Look no further. Take a peek at these museums here in Chicago. The Field Museum, and the Museum of Science and Industry. Take a look at even Elvis's house in Graceland. Can you identify his columns? Okay, fourth grade, for today, what you're going to need is a pencil, you're going to need your sketchbook, you're going to need a device, whether it is your iPad or you're going to need a laptop. The other thing too that I would recommend is that you have some sort of straight edge or you have a ruler. What you're going to be doing is you are going to be drawing those columns. I don't expect you to draw all 3 columns. Pick one. If you want to draw all 3, that's great, you can. I don't expect you to draw all 3 though, so pick one of them. You're going to find in your Seesaw activity that there are links to each one of these columns, step-by-step instructions on how to draw them. One thing that I do want to point out, because I did not do the step-by-step instructions, the Doric column. The guy that teaches the Doric column, it says Doric on the link, but when he talks, he accidentally says Ionic when he's teaching the lesson. Don't be confused. It is the Doric column that he is teaching. The other columns are correct. I also have a time lapse on here that will teach you step by step as well. So if you don't want to listen to the directions, you don't have to. You can watch my time lapses, or you can actually directly click on the links to listen to someone explain how to do them. The other thing that you're going to do is you are going to be designing your own column today. When you design your own column, you are going to want to reference these shapes that you looked at last time. If you didn't get a chance to draw them, that's okay, but you do want to look at these 3D forms, because these forms are directly in Tinkercad. Do not start designing your column in Tinkercad today. We're going to talk about that next time. But use these forms to create a column out of. I will do another demonstration after the traditional columns on how I created my column. And then after that, you'll put those in Seesaw and you'll be done for today. Okay, fourth grade, when you go to create your original column, you want to choose 3 to 5 of those forms, those 3D forms that you learned from Tinkercad. If you didn't get a chance to draw these, that's okay. You can look on Tinkercad at the shapes that they have provided. Try not to go over 3 to 5. we are really at the very beginning stages of this process, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed in this process. So that's why I'm limiting you to choosing just 3 to 5. So you're going to design an original column based on these shapes, these different forms that you have found in Tinkercad. So on this page, I am going to choose 3 to 5. I'm going to start with that sphere. I am then going to, I'm going to choose the box. So I'm going to take the box, and remember, start thinking that this is what you're going to be using in Tinkercad. This is going to be what you're stacking together. So I'm going to take that box, and then I'm going to take another box, and I'm actually going to stretch that box. Because remember, think about how you're going to be building this in the app. So once you're in the app, you're going to be able to stretch. You're going to be able to pull. You're going to be able to manipulate these forms and these shapes. So all I'm doing is I'm taking that sphere. I'm taking that box. And again, I'm taking that box again, and I'm just pulling it. I'm manipulating it. So I'm going to take that box probably one more time here. So down below, I'm going to take it again, and I'm going to drop it down here at the bottom. Don't worry about the precision of your drawing. Don't worry about making it perfect or anything like that. I'm just looking for a basic sketch that says, this is what I want to put together. So I actually, when looking at mine, I have 3 boxes and I have 1 sphere. And eventually this is what is going to translate into Tinkercad. So at this point I can stop, okay? If you want to do a couple different sketches, that's fine. You can make several different sketches. But again, all I have done is I have taken 4 shapes. I haven't gone over 5. Keep it simple, because the simpler it is, the easier it's going to be once we transfer into Tinkercad, okay? All right, last pieces of information for you, 4th grade. Inside of Seesaw, here is where you are going to find those links to the different columns. Remember, in the Doric columns, the artist accidentally calls them Ionic columns in the video. They are Doric columns. Just go ahead and watch those. And then in the template, when you click on it, page 1 is where you're going to post your traditional Greek columns here. Remember, you can choose to do 1 of them, 2 of them, or all 3 of them. On page 2 is where I have my examples of the Greek columns. You can look at mine for reference. On page 3 is where you're going to post your original columns here. Use 3 to 5 Tinkercad shapes to design your column. And on page 4 is my example that I did for all of you. So remember, you're choosing from those shapes that you hopefully drew last time. If you didn't draw them, it's not a big deal. You can just open up Tinkercad and you can reference Tinkercad to get ideas, and then use those shapes. Use 3 to 5 of them. Create your own original column. Make sure that you hit that green check for approval, and then you are done, and send them in. That's it for this week. We look forward to more next week. Take care.